sense, which again is not the end of the world. It just means they need to go find somebody to be that.
Of course.
One player who's not going to be that, but could be back with the Kings this offseason is Jake LaRavia, who is hitting free agency. He talked with Michael Scotto, and it turns out that Doug Christie's return may actually facilitate Jake LaRavia's return.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting.
I thought it was too. Like, I pulled a quote from Michael Scotto's interview, and he says, I loved him being the interim coach. I even told him in the interview that if you're not hired, odds are I'm probably not going to re-sign with Sacramento. But if you are, there would be more of a chance for me to go back to Sac.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to, we've talked about like Doug, what Doug Christie is good at as a coach. And I think that speaks to the thing he's best at, and that's connecting with players. And I think it's a huge reason he was brought in as the interim coach. And I think it's a huge reason that he was hired as the full-time head coach is because of that ability to connect with players in a way that Jake LaRavia was here for 2 months.
Yeah.
Couple months, and had such a connection with Doug Christie. And this is Jake LaRavia we're talking about, who also got hurt and didn't play the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He had such a connection with that head coach that he was going to let that impact his free agency.
Yeah, he only played 19 games for the Kings. And I think what we saw from Doug was him allowing Jake LaRavia to like let loose and be a different style of player. You know, we had the moments where he was defending Jokic, or moments where he was defending point guards. Like, I think the Kings showed a lot more faith in Jake LaRavia than Memphis ever did. And I also think he was embraced by the crowd. Also, shout out to Jake, who got engaged, it looks like, over the last, since the offseason started. So,
congrats.
His Canadian girlfriend, which I always tease him about.
Why?
Because
anti-Canadian?
Because he always said, "Oh yeah, I've got a girlfriend, but she lives in Canada." And it's like you have a girlfriend, but she lives at a different school. Yeah, so I would joke with him. I did meet her, I think, twice, and she's absolutely lovely.
Went to Canada?
No, she was here a bunch.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, towards the end of the season. So
Salute.
Shout out to Jake LaRavia and his new fiance.
And this is where he talked about what he's looking for in free agency. And again, this is Jake LaRavia's interview with Michael Scotto on Hoops Hype. Encourage everybody to go check it out. But he said the biggest thing, this is what he's looking for in free agency. Quote, the biggest thing, like scratch the money part. I want what everyone else wants, which is being on a team that's really competing for a championship, or a young up-and-coming team that's ready to win. I love to compete. So that, to me, and maybe this is just where he's at as a player. Maybe this is where he's at after being in the building. Maybe this is where he's at after talking to Scott Perry and Doug Christie. I don't know. But that wanting to compete for a championship or young up-and-coming team, to me, the Kings are neither of those at the moment. And so, again, I might be overshooting this because Jake LaRavia is not a high-level free agent. But when he says that, to me, that's like, oh, yikes. Maybe he doesn't want to be in Sacramento. Or, like I said, he's heard from something from Scott Perry and Doug Christie that makes him think, oh, you know what? Hey, this is going to be a young up-and-coming team. Or, oh, they do have moves in the hopper that they're going to try and be competitive or more competitive this year.
Yeah, I think so too. Like,
or maybe he's just talking in platitudes.
Yeah, I mean, Jake LaRavia, just so people know, the most the Kings can offer him is like 5.1, 5.2 million. No other team in the league is limited to that. They all can offer him more than the Kings. And if you're the Kings, you're just hoping that the offers don't roll in where it's like a 3-year, $18 million deal or a 3-year, $21 million deal.
Because what can the Kings offer?
They can offer 5.1 million, and that's it.
Per year.
Per year to start, but they can also do a 1-year deal, and then after that 1-year deal, he'd have full Larry Bird rights, so they could sign to whatever amount. It's just that first year because Memphis opted out of his 4th-year rookie scale, so it's a little bit complicated. But like, look, I think he's probably between a $3 and $5 million player right now. He's got a long, he's got injury history, but I also think, hey, look, you found a player that is exactly what you need, the type of player, the archetype of player. And I think it's interesting, Jake LaRavia talked about player archetypes a whole bunch in his interview, but that's something that I always look at too. You bring in a player and he might not be the end all be all, but he could show you what that player looks like next to Domas, next to what used to be a De'Aaron Fox lineup, what he looks like as a switchable forward next to Keegan Murray. And that's like, can you get a better version? Can you get a different version? But I think if Jake LaRavia wants to come back, I saw enough of him that I was like, okay, I would love to have that guy as my third or fourth forward moving forward.
He's also the second youngest player on the team behind Devin Carter.
Yeah. Yeah.
This goes back to what I was saying earlier. You talk about his stats last year. 6.9 points, which, is nice. 3.9 boards, 2.4 assists. He shot 42.3% from three, and he played, where are my minutes? 20 minutes a night.
Yeah.
Combined between the Grizzlies and the Kings. That's not anything that's blowing the doors off of anyone. But this is the right type of player. And ideally, when you're competing for a championship, maybe Jake LaRavia is your eighth or ninth guy. But this is the type of player who's going to come in. He's going to know what his role is, and he's going to do everything to make sure he's perfecting that role and helping the team win.
Yeah, this is the type of player that, first of all, Memphis goes out and searches for.
Yep.
Which it's a certain skill or whatever it is that something that a player has. But it's also it's something that the Oklahoma City Thunder look for.
Yep.
This is the type of player, and I don't know if he would get rotational minutes on the Thunder because they have a bunch of players like this, but he's 6'8". He's a long wingspan guy. He plays defense aggressively. He hustles. He gets on the floor. And, again, this year he really hit the three ball, which is something he talked about working on this summer. He shot 44% from three with Memphis, 42.3 overall, and 38.5 with the Kings.
Not bad.
This is a player that, again, I don't think the Kings need him as a starter. If you're coming back in the next season, Jake LaRavia is your starting small forward. That's not a great thing.
Sure.
But that's because he has a long history of injury, and he also doesn't have a long history of success.
Yeah, you need production, or more production than he's given out of a starter.
Yeah.
But like I said, to me, it's less about, he's gonna start. No, he's just a good player. Just a quality, impactful player who does the little things on the margin. The Kings don't have enough of those dudes.
Yep. He's a top 8 or 9 rotation player.
Yes, ideally.
Yep.
And that's why I'm for 5.1. If he'll take that deal.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some team out there that's going to give him 8 a year.
I don't think so. And I also think it's very possible he makes less than that. I think it's possible he plays on a league minimum or close to it next season. And then you go from there. It's just the Kings don't have things like the right to match or anything like that. So it's complicated keeping him, but I also everything he said in this interview with Michael Scotto, I think is pretty spot on. He did leave the door open to come back. I'd say the one concern I have is someone who spoke to him multiple times after he arrived in Sacramento, was that, don't forget about taxes. Don't forget about, how expensive it is to live in California. There are other spots in the NBA that if you're only going to make $3 million, that your money would go a lot further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully he's back. I'm a big Jake LaRavia guy.
Yeah, me too.